3, 2, 1, and I think we're recording. Great. My name is Lane Prebor. I'm an attorney at the University of Florida Student Legal Services, and I'm joined by my great friend and colleague, Mr. Ray Cawthon, today, and we're here to talk to you. This is probably the most important presentation that we do, entitled Introduction to Student Legal Services. In fact, it's just been updated with the changing times, and we're going to talk a little bit about the services we provide, the history, some interesting demographics that we have, and as well as the hot issues that we're facing right now with our challenging times. And just to let everybody know, you can easily get a hold of us, studentlegalservices.ufl.edu, and we are a division of student affairs at the University of Florida. Let's see if I can go to the next slide here. Yeah, during COVID-19, of course, our office wishes to extend our wishes for everyone's safety, and we want all of our students, as well as everyone, to abide by the quarantine public safety laws, including social distancing and PPEs. Student Legal Services stands with our students in speaking out against racism and discrimination. And we want you to know that you can contact us at any time. This will be a recurring theme throughout the presentation and workshop today for specific help on healthcare forms, debt as a result of the epidemic or otherwise, medical billing, insurance questions, off-campus leasing issues, basically any other legal matters. We want you also to know that there's almost always legal options available to address these concerns. Because we are attorneys, we have a legal disclaimer here. The information contained in this presentation is not intended to constitute legal advice, and it's certainly not a substitute for consulting an SLS attorney regarding one's particular case or situation. The information being provided today is educational, and we want you to know that the information and opinions are not necessarily those of the University of Florida, University Board of Trustees, the Board of Governors, or the state of Florida. And remember, we cannot emphasize this enough, and I know Ray would agree, that every situation is so unique. There are so many factors, and we recommend that you certainly contact our office to talk about your specific situation so we can analyze those. And you can apply again for our services on our website at studentlegalservices.ufl.edu. A little bit about Student Legal Services, and we've been providing a wide range of all kinds of legal services to students since 1977. And since we are a preeminent institution, Student Legal Services also strives to match that preeminence in the office itself by being a leader in the university student legal system. We want you to know that it's funded with your fees, so you are our bosses. Activity and service fees, a very thin sliver of which goes to pay for our office, as well as a slew of all of those other wonderful services that you have available. Right now, and the reason I say right now, we're located in room 3500 of the Rights Union. We've been there many years. Student Legal Services, we had actually done some research on this. We've always been in the Rights Union from its inception at different points and different locations within the union itself. Currently, we've been in room 3500 for many, many years. And Student Legal Services, the history is interesting on this one, and we were one of the first student legal service programs in the country. I believe University of Illinois, Urbana-Champaign was one of the leaders in that regard. University of California at Berkeley, I know, was mentioned as well, because this grew out of the student rights movements of the 1960s and 70s. And that's one of the big reasons I've been told by a senior administration official that there was actually a lot of resistance to student legal services at the beginning. Administration wasn't sure that they wanted students to have attorneys and to have that amount of power, that comes with having attorneys. But certainly student government believed that it was important enough, had passed the resolution. It was started with one attorney back in 1977. His name was Leonard Grill. And Leonard is still very active. I see him at bar luncheons, and certainly Ray's met him as well. A wonderful individual, still very, very energetic, and still seems to be someone very fascinated. Great talking to him, interested in the law. And he has a wealth of information about the history of student legal. Our directors, Leonard Grill, since 1977 to 89. Larry Gibbons from 89 to 2000, Daintree Cleary from 2000 to 2012. That's when, in that period when I came on board, was under the wonderful directorship of Daintree. And John Adcock has been serving our office very diligently since 2013. I was going to put a question mark here, Ray, you know, afterwards, like 2013 to question mark, you know, and I thought, no, president sounded better, right? Because then that way, as we provide, right, you know, it's not like we're determining when. When I did the averaging on this, it looks like, you know, somewhere around 12 years appears to be about average for this. So, you know, John maybe can make it until 2025 or longer, hopefully, okay, serving us. Right now, we're proud to boast. It's very difficult to keep count because now there's so many universities across the country have discovered how important student legal services is. And not only the US, but also abroad. And we know that there are more than 250 programs now in existence. This is very briefly our mission, vision, and values. And we just want to make sure I'll highlight a couple of these. Our mission is to empower our students to make positive choices, to be leaders in the global community. Of course, we do that by providing free confidential legal counseling and providing professional development opportunities. We also are doing, like we do today, outreach, and we want to educate our students. Our vision is, of course, we strive and we want to make sure that all our students strive for academic and personal excellence in every facet of their life. Legal education, leadership, and service is very important. Diversity and respect through responsibility, well-being through proactivity and accountability. Our values are to be, as I mentioned before, an exceptional, preeminent legal service provider. And we want to enrich the personal and professional development of students by providing accessible legal services, personal legal counseling, developmental opportunities, and proactive education. That adapts with the changing times. And we've discovered there's many, many challenges that we're facing now, we'll face in the future, and we want to adapt to meet those challenges. Meet the staff. Okay, the fun portion here. We're staffed by 4 attorneys with over 105 years of experience, and Joy Thomas, our administrative assistant, would add another 7 years of legal experience to that as well. And if you do the math, you will discover that all of us have quite a bit of practice under our belts. John Adcock is our director. As I previously mentioned, Alicia Tebeg is our associate director. Alicia has been with the office over 25 years and has seen many, many changes. There's Ray on the bottom there. And Ray, I'm having you be quiet the entire time. Do you mind if I just ask you to introduce yourself and tell us something interesting?
Sure thing. Yeah. Ray Coffin, obviously. And I came to legal services in 2013, right after John became the director. I had a career in litigation. I was a trial lawyer for 15 years before that. And going back to what you're saying in terms of the experience, one of my favorite facts about our office is that the students at University of Florida truly have one of the most experienced law firms in Gainesville at their service, and proud to be a part of that.
Thank you, Ray. I really appreciate that. Yeah, an excellent introduction. Ray and myself both graduated from University of Florida Law School, and certainly if anybody has any questions about that, I'm happy to tell you about our career track. You know, that may be another presentation. I know that Ray and I, as well as the other attorneys, have done plenty of presentations to the pre-law organizations, as well as law students themselves, and happy to share our journey in law. Yeah, thank you so much, Ray. One thing that John does like to emphasize about the office, and I want to make sure that students understand this, he says that he'll put us up, as Ray has said, against any law firm, basically. And it's not only, it's the breadth and depth of our experience in particular areas that we'll get into on that. John also wants to emphasize that the attorneys in the office could well be making 2 or 3 times out what they're making in the private practice, because we he's really emphasizing the dedication of the attorneys in our office. Where we exist, we're nonprofit. We want to serve student needs, and everyone is dedicated very much that works in the office. Assistance in court representation. Would it be, I had that picture of How to Get Away with Murder on here. And if we had Ms. Davis, of course, that would be fantastic. It rarely, knock on wood, I don't think I've ever had a murder case, and hopefully we will never have one within the office. The good news is that our students are very good people. Generally, our job is to keep you out of court, but we can go to court with you in Alachua County. And we go to court in Alachua County because that's where 99% usually of our students reside. On landlord-tenant cases, apartment housing rentals, our numbers are very high on those, even higher during COVID-19. We'll talk a little bit about that. I know at one point, Ray, I think there were 4 times the volume when we were checking of the cases that were coming in. And I know Ray can attest to that. Our calendars were busy, one after another. Name changes, and don't worry, nothing nefarious here. Our students are just changing names frequently because of family situations and other reasons. We can remove criminal records for background checks. Again, don't worry, our students are very law-abiding citizens. Ray, what are our common criminal cases?
Most common criminal cases that we deal with are minor in possession of alcohol, as you can imagine, in a university community. A lot of people who like to live the college student lifestyle. We try to encourage students to understand that if you're under 21 and you're visiting the midtown and or downtown bars, you're playing a numbers game, meaning that at some point, GPD or other law enforcement is going to be going through each of those bars. And so, we get a number of students who have been snared by that strategy, and we help them out with resolving those cases.
Thank you so much. And yeah, that's exactly right. I think some of the other cases that we have, misdemeanor possession of marijuana, and leaving the scene of an accident, which sounds worse than it probably is because of our tight parking. Sometimes at the university, our students will either end up hitting the car next to them when they're backing out of the car behind them. And we have to emphasize this, very important. You have to try to locate the owner of the car. And if not, you've got to leave your contact information. You're also supposed to report to the nearest law enforcement. Personally, I've never had any student charged that hasn't reported it immediately, but you have to leave your contact information on the car. And I've had a lot of students come in my office, oh, late, it was just a scratch, and then I have the pictures from the prosecutor and the bumpers falling off. I know Ray has seen the same thing. So obviously we have a divergence of facts, on those.
Not only have I seen the same thing, somebody did that to my car. They backed out and raked down the entire driver's side of my car, damaging it pretty significantly with dents, and failed to stop and leave any contact information. So please, if something like that happens, do the right thing.
Thank you, Ray. I forgot to mention that. That was the first week or second week of your employment? Is that right?
It was early on. It wasn't quite that early, but it was early on, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I felt so bad. I told Ray, welcome to UF, right? And it is, unfortunately, it is so common, but we do ask you, Ray's exactly right. It's so much easier. Somebody's going to call in your tag very likely, and you're going to get charged. It's easier. Do the right thing, as Ray says. Leave the information, okay, with the car itself. Divorces. We can actually go to court on divorces, and we have more than a lot of people realize. I know even administration is surprised with the numbers. Reason for this, University of Florida has one of the highest grad populations in the country. And with the grad students, we hate to call them starter marriages, but frequently they're a short duration. There's no children, personal property. They've been married 2 or 3 years. They live in different cities. They discovered they probably didn't have that much in common to begin with, and we're free, right? And confidential. So we do all the heavy work on those. So it's not nearly negative. Like I said, there's no child custody battles. In fact, I think every one of my students would say that it was an empowering and at the end, certainly a very positive experience, I believe. Ray also joins me on that. I think we're the two attorneys in the office, right? They do the lucky attorneys that get to do all the divorces, you know, on it. I was so happy when Ray joined the office because I was the one lucky attorney, right? After Daintree retired, you know, I became the attorney, the divorce attorney, but now we have two.
I'll be filing one later today.
Oh, you got one later today. Actually, and I did a consult yesterday. So, you know, in terms of talking about numbers, that will give everyone an idea. Step parent adoptions we can do as well. Advice and assistance. Okay, let's talk about everything that we do very, very quickly. Everything from traffic citations. If you get pulled over in a traffic citation, we'll talk about it a little bit later. We're happy to help you with that, particularly if you're an international student. It's important that you come to see us on that. Criminal charges, again, as we've discussed, nothing that serious for our students, but having a criminal record can be a big deal. It can cost you employment, the ability to get financing in the future. So we encourage all the students to come to us. Usually on our cases, they end up with a what I would call a very good resolution, very likely a dismissal. If we do our job right, we can frequently keep it off the court records or remove it from court records as well. We do insurance. And a lot of matters in regard to medical and auto billing. Ray, I don't think life insurance has really been much of an issue for us at this point. Consumer matters such as merchandise, warranties, financing, contracts, credit cards, such a huge umbrella. If you buy a car and the car breaks or a computer, you know, certainly you're not getting resolution, come see us and talk about it. Property damage for us are usually two major things, and they're moving objects. It's automobiles and bicycles. And certainly there are times when I get 1 or 2 cases a week. I'm sure Ray is the same on that, depending on fall semester can get pretty busy. A lot of people are moving. Powers of attorney, living wills, healthcare surrogates, we cannot emphasize enough. I've got another section at the very end of this just to reinforce. We would really like every student to get these in motion. Particularly, you're going to be separated from your family, either where they're living now or internationally even. So it's important to have these on board so people can make some medical decisions and other decisions for you. We also do notaries right now because of COVID-19. Our notary service is currently closed. We are adjusting. We're going to be adjusting in the future on that, but for everyone's safety with social distancing. Services not provided, immigration and visas, income tax, personal injury, patent, trademark, copyright, real estate, buying or selling homes. The reason for this is just that we have not had significant numbers or percentages in the past, and we like to believe that we can handle 95 to 98% of our students' legal needs with whatever comes into our office. These areas are so specialized. You have attorneys that devote their entire career, right, Ray, to these areas, these practice areas, and the law is sometimes changing, sometimes frequently changing, for example, on immigration. But if you have any of these issues, go ahead and contact us. We want to get you. We have referral attorneys that can help you, and they've agreed to provide discounts to our students by virtue of being on our referral list. Limitations, what can we not do? Okay, not a whole lot. We can handle almost anything, but between UF students, if they have a dispute between them, we can't say you're the right one and you're the wrong one because we represent all 50,000 plus students, right, Ray, that are walking across campus or not even on campus, okay? They could be online, but every one of them is our client, okay? And because of that, we can't, it's gonna be a conflict for us. Rarely happens, but it has, usually roommate disputes. Claims against the University of Florida, the state of Florida, or any state agencies because we work for the university. And disputes under $100 or over $15,000. I've got Judge Judy's thing here, and this is true. You know, we have some students that, you know, $35, overage charge on a cell phone, usage. We like to think under $100 that you can handle it. You know, the magnitude of it. Over 15,000, fortunately, just about 98% of our cases fall within the range of 100 to 15,000. That's usually where a lot of student cases fall. The other is frivolous or without merit. We've had some people that, believe it or not, have come in and said that they would just like to harass their landlord for years, and not allowed to do that, okay? It has to be meritorious. There are specific Florida bar rules about that. Any commentary on that, Ray?
Yeah, there is, not on this particular issue, but going back to cases that we cover, it appears that we left out one important emerging area of representation that we've been doing, which is that we're helping out student organizations on campus. We can help student organizations with a variety of services. Very often students come to me and they want to open up a bank account off campus. And so I help them get the paperwork done to do that. There are nonprofit issues that these student organizations have questions about, and I guide them through that process. So if you have a student organization and you have questions or need help with that, we can also help in those circumstances.
Thank you, Ray. Yeah, I think that's very, very important. And one of the big issues with student organizations, I wish we could list all these services. You know, it would be, you know, very, very lengthy if we did, but that's a very important one. And Ray is right. We began offering those services. Ray's been instrumental in that. The other one I should mention very quickly, because we do have a lot of students in the entrepreneurial program, is setting up a business. A lot of students think that they need a corporation. Very likely they need a limited liability company, or possibly they don't. But it can be important to come to us for guidance on that as well. We have blueprints and templates on setting those up. Eligibility, who's eligible? Well, students taking at least 6 credit hours, probably everybody that's watching this, paying activity and service fees, and as Ray mentioned, registered student organizations. We had it in there, Ray, right. Somewhere. Okay, I knew I added it in there. Common cases by percent. This is the fun part. I think it's fun. I like numbers. I like statistics. You know, what is our outreach? Who are we serving? I think it's very, very important that it's transparent, that we're accountable for this. Landlord tenant, 40%. I think Ray would probably concur with me that it went up between 80 to 90%. I haven't seen the final tally yet during COVID-19. Does that sound right, Ray, to you?
Yeah, I think that's probably true.
And we'll get into this. Everyone wanted to break a lease during that time, and Ray had actually has done some research. I've included information on that. That's one of the hot issues that we will get to. I know that's on everybody's mind right now. Again, the criminal case is 19%, and those were due to underage possession of alcohol. Okay, primarily, we have a few possession of marijuana cases, as well as the leaving the scene of the accident has been common. DUIs, fortunately, have been on the decrease, but I know that, unfortunately, Ray and I, as well as the other attorneys, have seen them and have dealt with them. I cannot emphasize enough, those types of cases, please always come to see us. We're free, we're confidential. We're not going to call any other offices on campus. We will keep it all internal with us. Traffic cases, 16%, okay, and certainly they write a lot of citations, both on and off campus. The good news is that there's a lot of law enforcement in Gainesville, and perhaps the corollary to that would be that you're more likely also to get pulled over. I've been told by students that they have never seen this type of police presence or officer law enforcement presence anywhere else, and there's good reasons for it. It's for the student safety primarily. We feel very strongly about that in this town, University of Florida, Santa Fe, as well as all of our schools, keeping our students safe. But part and parcel with that, if you are speeding, yep, you're more likely statistically to get pulled over. The interview, class shadow, and internships, about 10%. Although educational development is so important in our office that sometimes it comes close to approximately half of the services that we provide, very important, and we'll get into those later on, the development opportunities. Rounding out our expungements and sealings, and again, that's keeping the criminal records out of public view, very important for our students on background checks, and application questions as well. And certainly when students apply to jobs, we want to make sure that they know how to fill out the applications correctly so that they can get that position. Our job is to protect your educational and future career. Grad versus undergrad, this is interesting. I've always thought, you know, usage of our services. And if you look at it, the graduate rate at the University of Florida, and of course this is based on a couple of years ago. It changes from year to year, and we're waiting to see. Our fiscal year will be ending soon and we can crunch numbers again. But the graduate population at the time was 25%. But if you look at the services provided, 38% of graduate students use our office. So graduate students are a very important clientele for us. And the issues can be thornier because graduate students have just lived longer. Frequently we have families, we may have children, we may have bankruptcies, we may have foreclosures. Sometimes it's a second career. We can have consumer debt. Ray, am I correct in all of this? The issues are thornier, in other words, and take more time. They can be more intense. But certainly the numbers are higher for graduate students, and I think they're very happy to have us. I've never heard a complaint the entire time I've been here from anyone with our services. 62% were undergrad compared to the 74% ratio. Domestic versus international percentages. Okay, let's take a look at this. The numbers at UF, 87% are domestic students versus about 13% international students. But if you notice, although only 13% international students, 22% of the usage in our office is by the international students. Now, again, you know, this is an important fact to point out. We do a lot of outreach, make sure that international students know. One reason could be, and again, there are lots of factors involved in this, but cases for international students can have profound impacts. And they want to make sure that they get in our office. Know that we take care of it very quickly. So we do a lot of outreach to make sure that's the case. Male versus female. This is an interesting case. Our numbers at UF are overall was 53.5% at the time, and 46.5% male. So we have a slight, I shouldn't say slight, but a significant female population is higher, 54-46. When you look at the services, it almost matches exactly according to the population at UF. Criminal male versus female. Now we're getting into some interesting, very interesting topics. UF numbers, well, again, remember it was about 54% female and 47% or 46% male. Well, look at male is making up 57% of the criminal cases that come in our office. And again, I know that there are, I've even presented this to admin members, right? And they say, well, clearly males are more dangerous and aggressive. And, you know, and I say, well, that is actually, there's a Latin term for it, but I can simplify it. Correlation does not equal causation. Okay. The one thing, Ray, correct me, you know, in statistics, what we would say, all that we can say is more males apply for our services and we serve more males on criminal cases than females. Would that be correct?
And certainly one potential interpretation of that is that more males are out there committing crime. Another possible interpretation is possibly the females are just smarter about it and getting away with it more.
Okay, and again, right, yes, this would require, and I always tell students, you know, you can get PhD, yeah, you can get PhD dissertations out of that. You know, I know we're always quick, and Ray is right. There are multiple theories about this. You know, traffic, male versus female. This is very interesting to me because, you know, we always hear stories. You know, can run both ways. UF numbers again. Remember 54, 46. But if you look at the male, they make up 56%. So a significantly higher number of males come to see us, although they're a lower demographic at the University of Florida. And I've certainly heard a lot of people say, well, that shows females are safer drivers. And again, all I can say is the data that we have is that all we can say is that more males come to our office on traffic tickets. You know, that's the only factual assertion that I can make on that. Traffic, domestic versus international. Now, this is a pretty interesting, significant divergence on this one. Remember that we only have 13% international students, but they make up 36% of our traffic cases. And, you know, there may be a number of reasons for this. Certainly it's a new country learning to drive in different areas. Again, I cannot say, you know, with any certainty. It could simply be that international students share the information better, come into our office. Again, even a simple traffic ticket, they don't know what to do. The example that I always give, and Ray knows this example because I've said it so many times, I had a international student that came to my office, and she was younger and she was crying so much. It was the most crying I'd ever had in a consultation. And usually I keep the tissue, you know, on the edge of my desk, but I had to get the tissue, and I calmed her down and calmed her down. And I told her there's no jail, and she looked up and stopped crying and said, no jail. You know, she had actually run like a stop sign, you know, the rolling stop that some people do at a stop sign, hadn't come to a complete stop on it. And she thought she was going to get thrown in jail for it. So different countries have different laws. That's why we say, come to us. I worry about that, about the stress that she might have been, you know, experiencing prior to coming into our office. Almost always, I think Ray would agree with this, is that our students leave. I'd like to feel like a lot of stress has been lifted, okay? Because they can see the light at the end of the tunnel. They know that, that we can assist, that we can help, and probably not nearly as bad as they think it is. Is that right, Ray?
Yeah, I would add to that. I've had similar experiences in traffic cases. I would also add that I've had international students come to me very concerned about being involved in a civil case. Civil meaning one party is looking to another party for money damages, and they don't understand that in a civil case, there is no possibility of jail. They come thinking that there is a possibility of jail. And so absolutely, it's very satisfying that someone who is experiencing that fear has come to talk to us so that we can give them that comfort and reassurance that the problem they're facing is not going to result in any kind of loss of freedom or anything like that.
Thank you, Ray. I really appreciate that. And in fact, Ray knows the story. Once I was contacted by an attorney on the opposing party, damage to the car, and our student had been charged with leaving the scene of the accident. And the attorney actually contacted me and said, yeah, if your student doesn't pay, we're going to tell the prosecutor to prosecute to the fullest extent of the law. You know, and the law was, you know, you could get up to what was it, 60 days in jail on it. And I had to explain to the attorney that that's actually a violation. It's called extortion. You're not allowed to do that. And particularly, you know, an attorney, I suspect a newer attorney that just didn't know the law on that. Traffic undergrad versus grad, this is a very significant number as well. 48% of graduate students that only comprise 25% of the population versus 52%. Ray and I have not gone through this. I'm going to turn it over to Ray. Ray, what do you think is a possible explanation here? Realizing that we don't have the answer, but what would you think?
In interpreting the numbers?
Yes.
I mean, you know, the probably the most popular interpretation of that would be that grad students or older folks in general tend to be safer drivers. I think insurance rates along those lines, right? So,
Yeah,
you know, I don't know.
You're on the right path. I think, you know, when I presented the presentation before, again, we don't know the exact reason, but we suspect graduate students more likely to own a car. Okay. By and large, because the undergrads, a lot of them parking because they live on campus, et cetera, right? So grad students more likely to own a car, thus more likely to pick up a traffic ticket. So yeah, Ray, you're definitely on the right route there. I think, you know, on it, again, we don't have the exact reasons. Correlation does not equal causation, but we believe that's a good example. Thank you. On-campus housing issues. If you need assistance with on-campus housing, we want you to contact UF Housing and Residence Education. We're not allowed to get involved on university matters, but they're very helpful, very friendly. Now with off-campus leasing issues, we can get very involved, and particularly with COVID-19. I don't know how many students we had contact our office, hundreds. At least I would say, and many students did not want to pay for a lease that in a place they're not living. And certainly, rather than a one-size-fits-all approach, we want to tell you that we have to look at all the circumstances. We have to look at the lease itself. Some leases allow a buyout provision, and relatively rare, but there are those cases. We have to look at the issues that are surrounding safety and hygiene at the complexes, as well as the student and family financial circumstances. Every situation is different. Again, that's why we want to have you apply to our office so we can help you with this. hot issue number 1, and Ray is actually the expert on this. Ray, I'm gonna let you take this one over. Is that okay?
Sure. So beginning, and this will not shock anyone, but beginning in probably mid-March or so, when UF encouraged students to go back home, and most of the employees at UF began working from home, we had a rash of cases that students wanted to know if they could break their lease because of the COVID-19 situation. Our office, knowing that the general rule with a lease is that it is a contract, just like any other contract, and in the state of Florida, once the parties have signed the contract, the terms of that contract become binding on both parties. And the terms of most leases are 12-month terms. And so that's what we were facing at the time. So we thought, well, are there potential defenses that we can look into, which might enable some of our students to get out of these leases? And, you know, we did identify a couple of potential defenses, and briefly I'll summarize those. There's an impracticability defense and there's an impossibility defense. And they're actually pretty similar. And basically what that says is if at some point after the parties to a contract have entered into that contract, if at some point some outside factor intervenes, which either makes the contract performance impracticable or prevents it from happening altogether, then at that point the parties can terminate the contract and it will no longer be valid. And an instance of that in one of the cases that we looked at was that, you know, a daycare signs a lease with a landlord to run a daycare from there, but subsequently the county code provisions or permitting or whatever you call it, the zoning is I guess what I'm trying to say, the zoning laws changed and they can no longer run a daycare. It was no longer legal to run a daycare. So under those circumstances, the party who ran the daycare was free to get out of the contract. So could we make that argument in connection with COVID? Well, it turns out probably not, except for in a circumstance where if there are active cases in a particular complex where the student lives, that comes about as close as we could to making that argument. So all of this is, I apologize, a long-winded way of saying that realistically, even though the virus is circulating in the population, and even though UF was encouraging strongly students to leave and go home, those circumstances were not sufficient, generally speaking, to provide a legal reason for the student to break the lease. So we've gone through and looked at different cases for months now. And Lane is exactly correct that, you know, you should always consult with us because each particular case has its own set of facts. And in this particular analysis, the facts are very important in determining what can or can't be done.
Thank you so much. I know Ray had done the research on this. Our director, John Adcock, had contacted the landlords and as well as their attorneys, I know, to put together the information, making sure that our students are protected, and with the financial circumstances, making sure, I know no one was evicted at the time. And I know Alicia, our associate director, and John have both been working, I believe, on they have a landlord tenant task force as well with the university. Thank you, Ray. Hot issue number 2 right now during the summer, and Friday is probably going to be what we call D-Day, decision day for us tomorrow. University of Florida is going to announce its reopening plans. And all of us are anxiously awaiting to find out what model will be used during this fall. We just want to emphasize this is such an important time. Our students are looking for a nice, safe place to live. We can't emphasize enough to certainly come to see us for lease reviews. We have a database. We can look into complex complaints and we can tell you specifically what complaints have been turned in. We don't disclose any information about names. We keep all of that confidential about the issues, but certainly we have that database. We also want you to speak to current tenants. They know much better, and they will tell you our students are usually very honest. They articulate very well their experiences living there. Visit the complex at different times, check the noise, parking, and lighting, read the online reviews, and crimereports.com can also be used. And you can see, don't panic when you see it. Every incident is usually reported on. And I know I always panic every time I see those red dots on it, but you know, it contains a wealth of information. It can simply be a call in, you know, or complaint about noise. So make sure when you look at it that you distinguish between the two. Also contact Gainesville Regional Utilities about utility bills. If you don't know what GRU is, or GRU, you will when you come to Gainesville very soon with them. Anything to add there, Ray?
Yeah, I would, and I suspect you're probably going to go into this a little bit yourself, so I apologize if I jump in and steal your thunder here, but I would say now more than ever, it is vitally important for any student contemplating entering into a lease agreement to come talk with us before signing that lease agreement. In particular, all of these same issues could very easily arise again. What happens if 4 months into this lease, UF makes me go home? You know, what are we going to do then? So come talk to us. It's more important than ever that we go through that analysis and answer those questions. Right now, as I'm going through cases, we've seen an uptick recently in students who are signing leases for the fall. And I'm talking with them as well as their parents who have very legitimate concerns about, well, what happens if? So come and see us. Let us run through that, you know, the various scenarios with you before you sign that lease. And it's, you know, now is more important than ever to do that.
Thank you, Ray. Yeah, it's so important. You've got 4 free attorneys here, and you've got 2 of us on the presentation today. If anybody asks you who your attorneys are, you can say Lane and Ray, right? You should be able to answer that question. We're free, we're confidential, and we really like, as Ray mentioned, be proactive. Come see us before you sign a lease, okay? Before you enter into a major agreement. A lease is likely to be the biggest agreement our students have ever entered into. Okay, many thousands of dollars at stake. I've had students spend more time looking at Rotten Tomatoes and IMDb.com, figuring out what's their next movie they're going to stream versus actually looking over a lease. So Ray is nodding. I know I'm not kidding about this. And I know there's a lot of legalese in there. We'll put it in plain English for you. Come see us.
The great thing is you can still continue to spend your time looking at, what do you call it, IMDb. Let us look at your lease. We'll do it for you.
Yeah, that's exactly right. We'll take all the effort away from you. Yeah, and boil it down for you. Of course, don't rush to sign because leases can be binding when you sign them. Beware of online applications. You've got to make sure, is it a binding lease online or is it simply an application? Before you go committing to anything, including entering your initials or signing, you might want to come see us, you know, and make sure. Read everything in the lease, obviously. Rarely do my students want to go through a 50-page lease. As Ray says, come and see us. We've seen these so many times that we can probably point out the important factors in them. Keep copies of them. Another issue we have is that our students will sign a lease, don't have a copy of it. With the electronic leases, that's becoming less of a problem, but certainly we have a lot of students that come in our office and the careful, prudent attorneys that we are, hey, let's take a look at the lease. And they say, oh, Lane, the landlord has it, right? So, you know, get a copy of it. It's very important. And any promises, remember, these leases contain language which says it has to be contained in the lease itself in writing, okay? At least get something in an email, okay? Something in writing. We're attorneys, we like to see that. Because verbal agreements may not be binding. And as Ray said, come to SLS for that free lease review.
Can I jump in again, Lane, real quick on that last slide?
Sure.
You went over it, but I'd like to emphasize it because I think it's important enough to emphasize it, is that through the years that I've been here, not a year goes by where I don't have 2 or 3 students come in and tell me, you know, I talked to the property manager and they told me that I had to do an online application. And really what ended up happening was the student signed a lease. And so you have to be exceptionally careful about what you are reading through and what you are putting your initials on, because even an electronic signature in this day and time counts as a signature, which binds you to a 12-month lease. And so that can become a very difficult situation if you think, and I've been told that these property managers are telling students that, oh no, it's just an application, when in fact, it's a lease. So just be very, very careful. And I wanted to just emphasize that I have seen that every year since I've been here, over the 7+ years that I've been here.
Thank you, Ray. You know, I had one student come in that had signed 3 leases. And, you know, this was unusual for me. I've certainly had students that have signed 2 leases, believing they could get out of one. This particular student had signed 3 many, many years ago. And the solution, I told him, we're gonna have to try to sublease. And we had to list all 3. And he said, but Lane, I like the last one. I said, I know you do, but you better list all 3, right? And we got to get at least 2 of these things rented, you know, so you don't have to pay for them. So Ray is very right about it. We can't emphasize it enough. It's a huge contract, many thousands of dollars. Hot issue number 4, driver's licenses. We want to emphasize, if you move to Florida permanently, you must get a Florida driver's license. Okay, that is the law. However, if you're a full-time student, you can usually, let me put that in there, drive on your state home country license, but you also need to have your student ID with you. Now, this is a law that's a little buried. University Police Department, I know we've worked with them and we've certainly talked to them about it. They've agreed with us about it. State attorneys agree with us about it, that our students can drive. However, when you leave Alachua County, law enforcement may not know the same laws and rules. Because of here with our international student population, as well as out-of-state student population, we're very aware of it. So just be aware of that. What we recommend, it just makes things so much easier, particularly with insurance. Get a Florida driver's license if you're driving here. It simplifies things immensely, okay, on that. And be like Mr. Bean, get the Sunshine State driver's license. Hot issue number 5, auto insurance. If you have a car, you have to have auto insurance in the state of Florida. Some states don't require it, Florida does. You have to keep a copy of the insurance card in your car. Okay, you can have it in your wallet, but it has to be either on your person or in your car. I know this picture, I know Alicia knows this picture, Ray. Do you remember this from the movie?
It looks familiar, but I cannot identify the movie.
I'll give you a hint. Kathleen Turner and Michael Douglas.
Ah, War of the Roses.
Perfect, thank you. Yeah. It's a good example of where a divorce should not head. Is that a good way to put it, right, Ray? I think Kathleen Turner rides over Michael Douglas's car in the movie, his little sports car, and he gets even by cutting off her heels, I believe, on the shoes or something, right? It goes tit for tat. We don't recommend this, okay? But the important thing is accidents happen. Hopefully not this particular accident here, but it can happen. Minimum insurance in Florida, just so that you know, $10,000 in PIP, or personal injury protection, to protect you and the other individuals in the car. $10,000 in property damage liability is required for other automobiles. However, you know that if you hit a Mercedes-Benz, BMW, an expensive car, $10,000 probably not going to come anywhere near, okay, paying for that car. So of course we recommend to get higher limits, okay, and that certainly depends on your finances as well as how much you drive. One thing I would recommend during COVID-19 is you might want to look at your policy and adjust it. Many people are not even driving right now. So certainly, you know, you can look at that. Also, there are discounts being given. Make sure that you get it. Generally, we hear about 15%, I believe, right now, but we want to make sure that everybody's getting that. Newer car, please get comprehensive and collision insurance. Ray, how many times have we seen an accident happen? Our student does not have the collision insurance, gets into an accident, it's their fault, or the other party doesn't have insurance, right, Ray?
Right. Yeah. It's
they
Go ahead.
spend tens of thousands of dollars on a car, right? And yep, and we've got no way to get compensation, okay, in that particular case, right? Unless you have those collision insurance, okay, or comprehensive.
I would add that there's a general misunderstanding among students, and I was the same way when I was a student. The minimum insurance that you have really doesn't provide any coverage or protection for you or for your car. This is insurance that you're required to get to pay property damage that you cause to other people's property, and to pay medical bills for damages that you cause to other people. And I've had multiple cases through the years where the student comes in and says, I have insurance. Well, you don't. You have insurance to cover other people. If you want to have insurance to cover yourself, and you want to have insurance to cover your vehicle, regardless of who's at fault, Lane is exactly right. Please look into the comprehensive and collision insurance. It's not that much more expensive, and it will definitely come in handy if you get into an accident where you're determined to be the at-fault driver.
Thank you, Ray. Yeah, really, really important. Insurance is so complex that if you have an accident, we really would encourage you to come see us. Okay, yeah. We want to make sure, right, that the compensation is reasonable as well. Yeah, thank you, Ray. So important to emphasize that. How did you number 6, that fake ID? Okay, the classic. It is a misdemeanor in the state of Florida if you use that friend's or brother's ID, okay, to make yourself look older, if it's a real ID. However, if it's one of those IDs that you purchased off the internet, like looks a fake Florida driver's license, for example, it's a felony if you use it, okay? And it is actually a lot of work for us to clean it up. Almost certainly we'll be able to probably take care of it and resolve it successfully, but we wanted to make sure that all of our students know this. It can become very serious because many of our students do have a fake ID, okay? This is the reality. Officers can run IDs instantly with in-car computers, they're gonna know. And the charges show up on background checks as fraudulent practices, fraudulent impersonation. If you're gonna be working in finance, banking, business, they're gonna be running credit checks as well on you, okay? And you know, when you're dealing with millions of dollars of other people's money, they don't wanna see a fraud charge on there. That's how important this is. The takeaway, don't use a friend's or a fake ID. And there's our great friend, Mr. McLovin, right, with his fake Hawaiian driver's license. Underage possession of alcohol, as Ray talked about, oh gosh, the number of cases that we get, right, on this. The officers, as Ray mentioned, goes out and they do sweeps in the bar. Hopefully they're not as young as this particular individual looks here, and he's hiding his face for the camera. But remember that you don't actually have to be drinking, okay, the substance. You don't have to consume it. A lot of our students think that they do. Just holding or touching it, okay, this coffee, even if I didn't have any, or Ray with his water bottle, just holding it in our hand would be enough. The drink doesn't even have to be yours. Friend hands it over to you and you're holding it. Guess what? And you're caught. That's the possession of it. Breathalyzer is not required. Again, you don't have to consume it. And constructive possession, you can be charged if that beer is sitting in front of you and you have the ability to control it, right, Ray? I have had a case, it's been a while, but I had one where they were sharing a pitcher of beer and there were cups. The officer did not see them drinking, but it was sitting in front and all the individuals there at the table were charged. So it can happen. Hot issue number 8, be aware right now, particularly of COVID-19 scams. Be aware of scams in general. Unfortunately, university students are hit disproportionately on scams. And unfortunately, on top of that, international students are hit disproportionately in regard to scams. And right now, there can be fake texts, emails, or calls. We have an actual example of one here. And difficult to know, could it be legitimate? Maybe, maybe not. But rather than clicking that on, well, I can tell you, you know, that I had a personal phone call as well as an email verification in regard to the testing that all of us had to undergo, right, Ray? With the University of Florida. Scam medicines, PPEs on internet sites. We've all heard about this. Make sure that what you're buying is reliable. Be very careful. Fake job offers. I can't tell you how many times, you know, make thousands working at home. It appears to come from a professor or from a student. And in fact, it did originate from their email. Someone hacked their email, okay, to make it look legitimate. Fake bank checks. If anybody sends you a check for a lot of money and then asks you to wire some money back, be very careful, okay? Usually we can make a phone call, check in our office very quickly to determine that. But this is a Bank of America check. It looks exactly the same. It happens to be a fake check and looks exactly the same as a cashier's check. Fake IRS, Department of Homeland Security, asking for money or you'll be deported. That's not how they operate. They don't extort you for money, okay? There are some service fees involved, but they don't call you demanding it, okay? It's gonna be a much more official notification. If you're concerned about it, you have a number, you could either come see us or the police department and we can verify very quickly on that. If you're the victim, just come see us or the police. Hot issue number 9, traffic tickets. Very important nowadays. We've all seen unfortunately, the news, the YouTube videos, etc., of where the stops, the pullovers can go south. Someone can get hurt or killed. Our tips in Florida, the lights or siren are on and they're behind you, you must pull over. Okay, they may be pulling you over, they may be pulling a car ahead of you over, but the law is that you have to pull over. Okay, don't panic, don't argue at that point. I put this picture in here for a reason. We have this particular driver very agitated. He's trying to make his case to the officer, and this may be a little bit unfair actually, because it has, he's calling for backup and she appears to be, reaching, hand on a weapon, and certainly a loaded picture. I don't mean to imply, that that's going to happen or anything, but you can't really plead your case. Court, coming to our office, talk it over. That's the proper time to do that, okay? Stay in the car with your hands on the wheel unless you're told to get out. It's complicated in Alachua County. Different law enforcement agencies have different rules. Some want you outside the car, some want you inside the car. Generally, our advice is the safe way to do it, stay in the car with your hands on the wheel. Ask if they want you to get out, they'll tell you, okay? Be aware that other states, Georgia, in fact, I do have to tell my students this, if you're driving through Georgia, they treat many traffic offenses that would be only civil in Florida as criminal, okay? An important thing to note. So certainly if you pick up a ticket, we're Florida attorneys. Obviously we can't assist on Georgia tickets, but certainly we can try to get you, okay, some resources, okay, there. 3 options: you can pay the ticket. If you do that, you're going to get points, which can suspend your driver's license eventually if you accumulate enough. It also can increase your insurance. Your second one, you can fight the ticket by having a court hearing, or you can sometimes request community service or time to pay if you're having financial difficulties by going to court. Your third option is pay the ticket or traffic school to keep your points off the license. If you're a Florida resident, have a Florida driver's license, you are allowed 5 times in your lifetime or up to 1 time per year to use the traffic school option to keep the points off your license. It'll cost you a few dollars, but we find that it is well worth it. Short of it is, if you get a traffic ticket, come see us, right, Ray?
Yes.
Hot issue number 10, healthcare forms. I can't emphasize enough during COVID-19. Please come see us. Durable power of attorney, the HIPAA form, the living will, healthcare surrogates, organ donation forms. This allows other individuals to make decisions for you. HIPAA allows them to get the health information about you. And certainly we have domestic partners who can sometimes go to a hospital. The hospital doesn't know that. If you have a HIPAA form, you can get that information very, very quickly. And remember that our language follows the UF Shands language, okay? Because our students live in close proximity to Shands Hospital. So we try to track and use the same language that they do. Pre-law student opportunities. SLS is dedicated to personal and professional development. If you are interested in law, certainly contact us. We can provide innovative learning experiences beyond the classroom. And the idea is not just to talk to you about our journey, about law, about getting ready for the LSAT and everything else, but we can prepare you to assume the roles of leadership. Many, many individuals have come in our office, are in significant positions of what I would call leadership now. Very distinguished judges have served in our office, as well as legislators, many, many individuals. I hear this when people come to visit UF, they drop by Student Legal Services and thank us for being involved. Ray and I have seen this many, many times. Involvement and service, of course, in a global community. Different areas, reception area employees. It's very important. If you're wondering, if you're going to be working in a law firm, you might want to know how it operates. And you will learn very quickly how we handle intakes. It's as efficient as anything I've ever seen. having worked both in private practice as well as at the university. But helping us with the phones, checking clients, copying and filing. You can't get better experience than that, okay? Seeing how an actual law firm operates, particularly numbers wise, in terms of breadth and depth of cases. Professional shadowing mentorship program, my favorite program that we have. I think it's wonderful. You can actually partner with an attorney that will guide you in terms of your pre-law development, but you actually get to sit in on real world cases. Very rarely is a law firm ever going to allow you to do that, but you're going to be under the same confidentiality requirements that we are. You can see the cases as they come in, and it's very, very important if you're considering a career in the legal profession. Internships, research, marketing, and outreach, very important, and I know that those are highly sought after positions. Alicia Tebeg, our Associate Director, is usually responsible for those and has many, many applicants. You can go to our website and find the time frames on that. As well as ambassadors, it's very important, and I'm showing you here some hardworking students here. With our outreach, we table at a lot of events. We do presentations, including which we're doing today. Helpful links. The takeaway from that is if you're considering a career in law, if you're in law school or you're pre-law, contact us. Okay, we're happy to assist. There's links here that are available, and certainly you can contact our office. I'm going to give you an email. We're happy to email you this PowerPoint, and it has links to all of the various services that I talked about. Where are we located? Once again, 3500, third floor of the Rights Union. If you get off the elevator, you look straight above your head, you'll see the signs that point you right down to our office. Here's a picture of our newly renovated lobby area that we're very proud of. We have a lot more space now for our students, particularly important right now for social distancing. Telephone number 392-5297. I don't know if it's still old-fashioned, right? If anybody uses the old alphanumeric, but it's 392 laws if you do, okay, on that. And our website, again, studentlegalservices.ufl.edu. If you can't remember that, you can take a picture of this screen, of course, write it down, or just type in free lawyers UF in a Google search. Legal services UF, we will pop up, okay, at the top of the listings. Email, if you want a copy of this presentation or the other presentations that we do, please email us at studentlegalservices@UFSA. That stands for University of Florida Student Affairs. ufsa.ufl.edu. I will come back to that screen. Normally we have a question and answer period. We'll go to that, but because we're recording today, let me stop recording so that we can